What's up, assholes? BP here, and today I wanted to tell a little story about my life. Oh man, so like 10 years ago, before Tinder, before Bumble, before Hinge, and all that stuff, we had what was called Plenty of Fish. And oh yeah, that app is still around to this day, as well as like OkCupid and some others. I'm trying to think what other apps or websites that I use. But basically, before you had apps that you could download on the phone, well, you had to use what was called a URL, okay? And that is basically a website. So you had to go to like pof.com and freaking set up an account and shit. And yeah, so once you had that done, you had to like upload your picture, put a little details in your profile, and you were ready to go, man. Well, I would say back in 2013, I got banned permanently from POF. I can't remember why, but I suspect that it was due to my dating tactics. Allow me to explain. So basically what I would do is I would send out mass text messages to like hundreds of women, and then the few little responses I would get, well, I would basically feed off of that and, basically try to cultivate some sort of relationship out of that and try to trick them and deceive them into letting me come over that same exact night. And of course, well, my plans most of the time would foil. They would fail. But nonetheless, it was worth the effort because what did I have to lose, right? I mean, what else do you do with your time, your free time in your home? And yeah, you can like only play so much basketball and only play so much StarCraft and Diablo 3 and stuff like that, which was, the games that I would play back in the day. But anyways, so yeah, I would freaking get on Plenty of Fish. And I remember one time specifically, I got on there and yeah, this real pretty chick responded to one of my ridiculous messages. And I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, my name's Brian, and I wanted to just say hello and introduce myself. How are you doing? And of course, with all that cheesy pickup stuff, yeah, she responded well. She was like, oh, I'm doing well. And I was like, well, what is your name? And yeah, even though her name was there on display, she still told me her name anyways. And I'm like, great, this is going somewhere. And yeah, so she kept it going. I kept it going. And she was like, well, you're not looking to just hook up, are you? And I'm thinking to myself, of course I am. Why else am I on Plenty of Fish? But, I mean, obviously I couldn't say that to her, so I had to be more of a gentleman and say something to the effect of like, oh, no, of course not. Of course not. I'm not here for a hookup. I'm here because, yeah, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I'm looking to get married, basically. And I fed her all this bullshit, whatever, and she went for it. I mean, she took it hook, line, and sinker. And I'm like, sweet, I freaking got what I wanted. So, yeah, she was convinced that I was looking for a full-blown, serious relationship that would lead to, yeah, us living together and everything and being married and whatever. Well, anyways, so I just used that as a tactic to, slip myself into her panties. And, yeah, well, it worked. So anyways, I was like, well, what are you doing tonight? And she was like, well, not much. And I'm like, well, can I come over and maybe we can just hang out? And she's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I just need to know for sure that you're not looking for a hookup. And I was like, trying to reassure her that I was not. I was just trying to be a gentleman and get to know her, on a quote unquote sexual level. Anyways, she didn't know that, but I did. And so I was like, well, I am looking for a serious relationship, as you know. And yeah, I'm not going to try to have sex with you. Of course not. So she was like, okay, that works. And yeah, so she invited me over to her house after my much convincing of her to do so. So I drove over there, and she lived like, I don't know, an hour and a half away. This is back when I lived in Delaware. And so, yeah, I get to her house, and lo and behold, she has two children from two different men, and I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be a stepdad, but, whatever. Hey, this works for tonight. So she ended up putting the kids to bed, and I went with her to her bedroom, and next thing you know, we are discussing, life and whatever else on her bed, and then eventually it leads to us making out and then eventually having sex. Well, as we're about to get it on, she expresses her disdain for having sex with no condom. And I, of course, objected because, well, I don't like condoms. I can't feel shit. So I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll wear one. Do you have one? And she's like, yes. So I put one on. And oh man, I was going to town. That girl was like doggy style and missionary and pretty much everything you can think of. We were doing it like porn stars. And I was about, I don't know, 15 minutes in, about 100 strokes in, and I was ready to bust. I mean, I was like, dude, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted. Oh my gosh. And so, yeah, since it was a condom, I had a condom on, I'm like, well, I'll just bust inside, because this condom will freaking catch my load and I'll be good to go, man. And I can just like skate on out of here, nice and easy, and, everything will be like fine and dandy. Well, little did I know that, well, I'll tell you that detail here in a minute. But anyways, so I let loose. I was like, oh, and freaking busted as hard as possible. It was like the hardest nut I've ever busted in my entire life. And as you can tell, or as you could imagine, I mean, I was feeling it, man. And my eyes rolled back into my head, and I'm like, oh shit, this is so amazing. And yeah, she was like, wow, that felt great. And I was like, I know, it was good for me too. And as I pull out, assuming my condom is on, I look down, and for the love of God, the condom had broken. And yeah, so basically what had happened was I exploded all inside her, not realizing that the condom had been broken this entire time. No wonder it felt so amazing. But yeah, so I look down at her, and she's got her ass in the air and her face is down. And I'm like, hey, I don't mean to bother you or anything, but yeah, my condom just broke, and is there any way I can just like buy you a morning after pill? And to my dismay and to my utter horror, she looks at me and she says, I don't like the way those make me feel. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? What do you mean you don't like the way those make you feel? You're going to be pregnant if I don't buy you one like right now. Because my sperm is very potent, and any woman that I so much as touch gets pregnant. So I was like insisting that she gets this morning after pill, and she was like, no, I really don't like the way they make me feel. I'm sorry, I can't. And I was like ready to drop that $50 like on the spot, because that's how much they were at Walgreens at the time. And she was like adamant that she did not want this morning after pill. And I'm like, what the hell? I've got 3 kids. And I explained to her, I was like, look, I've got 3 kids already. I cannot afford a 4th child. I will be homeless. And she did not care and was like, it's too bad, so sad. And yeah. So for 2 weeks until she had her period, I sweated it out like it was nobody's business. I was in shock. I was in horror. I was in absolute dismay. I was like biting my fingernails and sweating profusely, waiting for the news that, if she's pregnant or not. And well, came back that she was actually not pregnant, which was, very surprising because I exploded very badly. I mean, I let loose, man. Like, no joke. But anyways, so yeah, she came back negative, and I was like very happy about that. So yeah, that's my POF story for the decades, man. So if you're a guy and you're listening to this, just remember, do not wear a condom because they don't work. This is why I don't like condoms, because you think they work and they really don't, and you end up with a pregnant woman you just met off Tinder or freaking POF or Bumble or some shit, or even Facebook. You know how Facebook is. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. Thanks for listening and watching. I am BP signing out, bro.